Keena broke her collar. All right, we are recording. So now anybody who's got to protect themselves, got to jump away, right? Just kidding. Keena, how long ago did you break your collarbone?
Yeah, three places. That's crazy, Keen. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've broken lots of bones. That has not been one of them, knock on wood.
Yeah, no kidding. And I don't think I've broken a bone, but I may have. I just don't know.
I got a picture handy from 1995.
All right, all right. Keeping us in suspense over here, Charlie.
Yeah, well, this is so, helmets weren't cool, right? Well, I don't know about you.
Right. No, no. Helmets were totally lame.
So I'm going to show you a picture after the last day I went snowboarding without a helmet in 1995. Ooh. So this resulted in a few broken bones, mostly ribs. Hmm.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I tasted some bark that day, Travis.
This is on a recorded session, so we can now screenshot that and we can blast that out through the world.
Yeah, that was a rough one. I worn a helmet every day since.
Oh my word!
Good hair, yeah, Jim. I'll tell you what. The first thing I did when I started Social Advisors was 2013. And, I've been a boardroom guy for, suit and tie and buttoned up, much like our industry, really kind of dictates, especially when you're on the vendor side and you're selling services. First thing I did when I started my own business wasn't working for somebody else. I grew my hair out to about like a 2-foot ponytail. So, I went through that phase. Glad to have that behind me.
Did that phase, right? Yep. It's over with.
I look back at those old YouTube videos. I go,
oh. Because Charlie, you would never perm your hair, would you?
No, that was not on purpose. It is curly though, if I let it go a little bit.
No, I mean, it's crazy how these trends are coming back now. I remember my uncle everybody who raced motocross, like permed their hair. And he was a motocross guy. You can look him up. Kenny Parry, Parry.
Well,
he won the Baja 1000 like several times. He's a Baja guy and raced Kawasaki, Yamaha, but everybody permed their hair. So now when I'm seeing these high school kids with permed hair, I'm going, no, it's not coming back.
Yeah, please no. Please no.
Yeah, fun. That's fun.
Right. How we doing? Travis, we're at 202, man.
Let's go.
So let me, Travis, you've seen these and, our guests likely have probably been at, some of these in the past that Social Advisors hosts. Travis, first off, I'm going to tell you, 2 weeks ago, I did my first solo webinar in a really long time and I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was talking to an empty room, right? So I don't know that I'll ever do another solo webinar. If we do, it'll be like a 15-minute product showcase or something like that, quick hitting, right? So we're really trying to take that podcast environment into a webinar format, right? So it's your presentation, it's your stage. I'm going to jump in here and interrupt you and
please
people have questions. But so before we get into that, I am thrilled, Travis, that you accepted my invitation to join me. I will tell you, I've been around this industry since 98, I guess, which, feels like it's a really long time ago. Some days it feels like yesterday and I look back and I go 23 years, 24 years, what the heck? There is a pride in our industry. And I think it's mostly younger advisors, right? Come into the industry. There's like a pride in working 70, 80-hour weeks. Like just heavy on that grind, right? And hopefully we graduate out of that. I was never that guy. I try not to be that guy. Certain days I got to work a lot. Certain days I go golf in the afternoon. I've been coaching advisors for, gosh, I don't know, quite a few years now. I know as a practice grows, absolutely there's a sacrifice in other places of life.
Right.
In fact, the one thing that I work on with most of the advisors I coach, inevitably, we go through right sizing, right? If you're a Jones advisor who is a one person plus a CA shop, it's tough to keep growing without adding resources, right? You've got home office resources, but you don't have a junior advisor.
Exactly.
You've got to right size your book. You got to keep a manageable number of households. For other advisors, independent advisors, of course, they can grow a team, but then that brings its own challenges. And in the beginning, a greater investment in time to bring your team up to speed so that you're growing with them, as opposed to having to drag them with you, right? So, Travis, you brings so much value to our industry. Your Balanced Advisor, the book, the process, everything we're going to talk about today is so sorely needed. As advisors grow their practice, inevitably they're giving up other parts of their lives to do that. And you, my friend, are going to save them from themselves, hopefully from burnout. And so, right. Travis, I've known you for about 1.5 years at this point, have the utmost respect for you. I want to say thank you for joining me. I will turn it over to you. And you're going to help advisors create balance in their life and scale their practice at the same time. And then I'm going to bug you throughout this thing with other people's questions and chats and different ideas I've got as we jump through these slides. So
perfect.
Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Charlie. Thanks for the intro, and thanks for wearing your Balanced Advisor shirt. If you guys stick around to the end, I'll tell you how you can get one of these bad boys. So we're excited, and thanks for having me. So you get a 2 for today. We're going to talk about balance and scaling. What? Yeah, we're actually going to put these together, because as I got started and we wrote the book, Achieving Balance, which hit #1 on Amazon about 1.5 years ago, it really started a movement, this Balanced Advisor movement. And with that, man, I've coached, just literally dozens of advisors and spoken all over to bring this movement out. But then what I've started finding is advisors like, I want to scale. I want to do things to scale, and I want to continue doing this with the balance that I have. I don't want to lose that balance. So yeah, and bad girl t-shirts too. Sure, Kina, we got you. So that's where we're at. We're at, if you have balance and you want to scale it, I'm going to show you how to do this without losing it. If you struggle with balance, there might be some things in here that we'll talk about that are absolutely beneficial to you. But it's likely you probably need to tackle that beast first. So here's my story really quick. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, speaker, coach, write books, etc. That's been my shtick. And I actually accidentally landed as a financial advisor. A friend of mine was like, hey, I've got a job. I know you're in college and you're engaged. You should probably get a job. It's like, yeah, I think I should get one of those things so I could provide for my wife and family. And, so I ended up at State Farm, got to Northwestern. I ended up trying to get into the RA space with my own shingle. And, I had my own firm and I loved it. I loved working with clients, but I personally struggled with balance. And here I am helping my clients try to have better balance and achieve their goals. And we all know that financial goals, they're related to every aspect of life, right? This is no shock to advisors. We talk about everything when we talk about money. So I wanted to figure out how could I have better balance. So I started going to classes and coaching and getting help. And I was coached, man, I've always been coached by someone, always. And I actually really like that. I like having a mentor. But along the way, I realized it's not enough. I really need some academic knowledge to help me understand the research behind what all these coaches are teaching. So I went back and got a master's and a Ph.D. In family and human development and psychology. And so very, very well depth in the social sciences. So why would you do that, Travis? Well, the whole point is to try to figure out what I could do to create this balance to then shape other advisors, to come back to the community and say, this is what I wish I knew I had, what I should have learned, those first 5 years when we were told we had to kill it, right? So then we could have balance. And I wanted to create a better way. Does that make sense, Charlie?
Makes total sense, Travis. I'll tell you, I'll show you when I started Social Advisors, Travis, literally my days were 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. My kids were little. I'd stop for dinner and get them to bed and go right back to work. And I was excited about it. There was a lot of passion there, but my life was out of whack, man, completely.
Yeah. So you get it. And I think a lot of advisors, they get it. They're told you've got to do this. In fact, I did a poll on LinkedIn. I just asked, hey, if you were told you had to kill it for the first 5 years, did you keep going or did you change course? And thankfully, most say no. We actually realized I needed to change course. But if not, if you're stuck in that workaholic trap, that's what this book is really all about. I detail it. I think we get sold this as advisors. We have to work. We have to kill it for 5-10 years, and then we'll have balance. But I didn't want that. I wanted to find a better way. So this is really my journey. And now because of that, now I am on stages. Now I do have a mic. Now I have a book and I have a podcast and everything that I wanted to do, but really advisors, you're my audience. And I love working with you. You're intelligent, you're well educated, you're sophisticated, professional. Like I've tried other markets, and quite honestly, I just love advisors because of all of the above. And so I really enjoy working with you. And this is why I branded the book and the movement for advisors. Now let me tell you where I was to kind of help you understand, because I was told, man, in order to make it, to be a speaker, to be really a thought leader, you have to write an ebook. You've got to do building your list. You got to do online courses, and you've got to do evergreen webinars and Facebook ads and online videos. And then you've got to go viral and da, 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 da. And, Charlie, he's sitting here shaking his head, smiling, because he knows, like, you probably have a year where you're like, yeah, webinars, those were great in 2015, right? Or 2016 when these things were new. And, but, add to the chat here, guys, what marketing tip, what marketing, like one thing have you been maybe told you just have to do, right? Well, I looked at all these and I tried them all, and I didn't have someone like Charlie who could say, you should try this or the other, or go through it one at a time. I kind of was just sampling. And with that sampling, I realized that none of these really fit. So I ended up kind of getting on stage, and this is what fit. That fit me. I loved it. I love speaking. It's my strength. I could become a better listener. In fact, I'm listening to Dale Carnegie's book, Listen, right now. It's part of communication. Like, I'm trying to become a better listener and coach better that way and be a better dad. But I really love to speak. And so I found that most of my marketing went really well with what I love doing. But we all know what happens when you put all of your eggs in one basket, right? You don't have to be a financial advisor to know about diversification. So I felt that firsthand after 2019, when I became an international speaker. I started scaling my business. Most of my leads were coming stage side leads, those individuals who wanted my help after I spoke. But we know that then came 2020.
This graphic. Right? Yeah. This graphic, Travis.
Right. Now, this is exactly what happened. We all scrambled for toilet paper, and we all waited in lines for, it seemed like, decades to get, basic essentials. But 2020 changed every one of our businesses. I was fortunate, though, to be able to already be doing some coaching, but it was, how did I get those leads into my whole system when I wasn't standing on stage? In fact, it was pretty crazy, because I had people in that first quarter 2020, they were calling me, that had already hired me and said, Travis, not only do we have to push you off indefinitely, but could you send all the money back that we paid you from being a speaker? Like, so it was like insult to injury. And you guys know, we could probably sit here and chat about 2020 for a very long time, but it was very much a learning point. It was from 2020 was from scaling to scrambling. 2019, we had a 6-figure business. Things were going awesome. But in 2020, the number one market source vanished, gone. Nothing I could do about it. We're still recovering from that really right now. Business first quarter tanked, worst quarter ever in the history of the Make Time Institute. Worse than graduate school. So it gives you an idea. I almost gave up on the dream, but I will tell you this, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, Charlie, because we kind of chat about this a little bit. But my wife and I had a very serious walk and talk. Okay. Yeah. We walked down the street and it kind of went like this: honey, we've either got to sell the house and move in with grandma, or I've got to find some kind of full-time job to supplement what's happening with the business, because we're done. That's it.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and said, don't you dare give up. This is your dream. You keep going. Yeah. I'm with you to the end. I don't care if we have to live in a van down by the river, right? And it was really that. It was, I'm willing to do whatever. You're supposed to do this. Your message needs to be heard by advisors.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Travis, we grew through a lot of this, but by nature of what we do. So while speaking was effective for you, I still, webinars, of course, 15, 16, and they were new and hot. And it's been a great way for advisors to turn through all this pandemic. Can't do seminars. A lot of the advisors I knew that were growing through seminar sales, turned to webinars. So much, I think as you found out in that time, and I think as many advisors found out, is marketing's got to be integrated. Right. Great that you're speaking, but if you're not doing anything else, you come against an event like 2020 brought us. You found out toast.
You're toast. Yeah.
And obviously, my other comment, different direction. You obviously, married the right partner.
Number one best decision ever in my life, right there.
Awesome.
Number one.
Awesome, man. Very cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, she's incredible. And we have 7 children. She homeschools. I help, where I can. I run a business and she does most of it. So she's an incredible human being and my soulmate and my sweetheart. So I love her. So thank you for bringing that out. Appreciate that. Awesome. And so what did I do? Like, this is what I want to present to you guys today. What we ended up doing is figuring out kind of school hard knocks. I wish I had known you, Charlie, a long time ago. I went through a couple of other coaches and advisors to help me figure these steps out. But you're exactly right. My marketing should have been integrated. We should have been diversifying, to use, a financial advising term. But here's the outcome. Here's what happened once I figured out these 7 steps, which we're going to present to you today. We ended up with the #1 best-selling Amazon book. Okay. And that has been in several forums in various countries and languages is to come. But we've tripled sales. This is the bottom line. 2020, we turned that first quarter, the worst quarter ever, into the best year ever times 3. Like we tripled where we were at. And in 2021, we tripled sales again. Okay. So this, I'm not stepping on but one stage in 2021. So it was on one stage. We built a team of 8. Some of that is outsourcing. Much of that is in-house, all while working only 32 hours or less. This is the key, because anybody can do this, right, Charlie? Anybody can triple sales. Anybody can do it again. You can 10X whatever you want. But what are you paying for that? What are you giving up for that? And you're in the marketing space, but only working 32 hours or less. I also, last year I counted it up. I just went back and checked. I took 12 weeks of vacation off, right? So I'm living the dream, not just preaching it. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense.
So we take vacations, but Travis, my laptop goes with me everywhere. I really try not to work weekends anymore. If I have to, I'll put a few hours in here and there. But yeah, no matter if we're traveling around in an RV or we're a quick flight to Puerto Rico, my laptop's everywhere. I work every day, a little bit if I
Sure.
I get away just a little bit, but having a true vacation where I remove myself from it for a little bit, that hasn't happened ever.
Yeah. And it's so different when you're able to have that disconnect, because anybody can take their phone or laptop. Like I can run my entire business off this now. Like right. It's crazy. Right. But when you have that disconnect, it's amazing what ideas come, and it's amazing the clarity that you receive. Oftentimes I go on vacations and I come back with incredible business ideas that it just came to me because I was not in the business. I wasn't working in it. And those long drives, my wife's sitting next to me and I bounce ideas off hers and stuff. It's super fun because I'll come back with, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was missing out on this. I need to do this, or I need to hire this person, or I need to do an event, so not only is there a personal benefit, but absolutely a business benefit. And there's some research behind that. So yes, if you're like Charlie and you're taking your laptop everywhere, highly, highly recommend disconnecting, right? It's super important. Thanks, Charlie, for mentioning that. So step number one is we have to understand in all the marketing, and, Charlie, I know we've talked about this, but clients, they have to buy systems. If they buy you, you're like, you use the Jones example. We'll go back to it. If they're buying you, they're getting you, right? And there's nothing you can do to scale. But if they buy a system and they're bought into your team or your system or whatever it is that you're using, then you can scale it. Because we can't scale ourselves. Like last time I checked, I still cannot find that app where I can copy and duplicate myself and make it do other things. Like it just doesn't work yet. There's also some ethical issues too, but but here's what you do if you want to create the system. First, you got to find the right market. If you don't know your market, you don't have a very specific niche as an advisor. You're really just taking a shotgun and you're out just trying to kill whatever you can find, right? It's really the issue. But once you have a niche, it's rifle, it's sniper, it's ninja. And because of that, you really can hone in your efforts. And now I could have written this book to every business owner in the world. And do they need the message? Sure. But I know advisors. I know what it's like to be one. And because of that, I have that connection. And that's the niche that I chose. And quite honestly, they kind of chose me. They're like, hey, weren't you an advisor? And don't you know a little bit more about financial advisors? Can you help me? I'm like, yeah, I can. So it kind of chose me. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, Travis, we preach this all the time, right? And too many times I ask the question, and I've asked this thousands and thousands and thousands of times over the years, who do you work with? Right. And more often than not, the answer is anyone with money, or, hey, can you fog a mirror and have money? Right. And that's anecdotal and funny and whatever, but it's a recipe for disaster, frankly. And in a world where, marketing budgets have to grow, right? Marketing budgets absolutely have to grow. And if you're trying to serve everybody, if you say, I want to work with pre-retirees, well, that's everybody on the planet that isn't retired.
Welcome to Earth.
If you're trying to serve absolutely everybody, you're saturating your marketing budget.
Yep.
Right. So a couple of things happen when you get niche, right? You get more concentrated, you remove competition. So anybody who's been on my webinars recently, 687,000, that's the numbers FINRA puts out there, advisors in this country, right? Now that's not all practicing, and it does include RIAs. But let's say it's 400,000 practicing advisors. If you niche, you remove competition.
Yeah.
Right? Because very few people are focused on the exact same niche you are. Also, when you niche, understand there's subtleties within that niche. You can begin to speak very personally about the target you're after. Right? So you're having a conversation that they recognize as part of their industry, rather than speaking to everybody in generalities. So if you want to get more personal and cut the competition out and let your marketing budget go further, get a good niche.
Yeah, really important. Absolutely. And the way you do that, research, get feedback. So when I said, hey, I'm going to be working with business owners and financial advisors, the financial advisors, the ones who said, hey, I want to give you some feedback on this. And they really liked it. And so I started spending more time there. But then I spoke, I wrote, I did videos, and I constantly was asking for feedback. This is the one thing that I find that a lot of business owners, if they're not really understanding their niche, and advisors, you're business owners, right? You own what you're doing here, your time and efforts. So you should be asking for feedback. Did this connect? Does this work for you? Does it not? If so, tell me. Because the last thing I want is to give a presentation for people to give zero feedback. Right. Because then I don't know, like, did that hit the mark? Did it not? So huge on feedback. And, so how are we doing? And I'm going to be asking questions here in the chat once in a while. And I want your feedback. I want to know if this is hitting home. But really, I find that you got to create a system, the financial planning process in your firm, the way that you do the business, it's got to be able to scale. So you've got to be able to step away from that. And one of the reasons why people can't go on vacation as well, kind of hitting back into this, Charlie, is because when they leave, their business suffers, right? When I leave, my business is still going. It's prospering. I have sales teams, I have everything in place. So I just have to disconnect the mind. And so a lot of people can't disconnect that mind. But if you have the system in place and you sell it as the solution, instead of you, hey, look at me, I'm the answer to all your questions, then you can scale. That's barrier number one. So I want to know, like in the chat, let me know, are you selling you, or are you selling your systems or your system, right? Are you selling the process? Are you selling the system? What is it? Or are you still selling you? I'd love to know and feedback on that. And that's really point number one. Clients buy systems. They want to know, and quite honestly, this is really good exit planning strategy as well. I mean, they want to know that your system will go on even if you pass away, you become disabled, right? We talk about them all the time, but they have that concern about you. And knowing that you have a team or a system in place is great longevity as well. So love to hear your feedback on this one, guys. He's selling you your system. Now, number two, you've got to value your system correctly. So for example, when I went independent, I started charging for my plans. And, I was charging like $1,000, $2,000 back in 2008. I think it was 2007. And that was because I just looked at the market. Like, what are people charging and what can I charge and how can I do this? Whatever you charge, obviously compliance approved, right? You got to work with this, but I know you can, charge the right amount. This is where I see a lot of financial advisors. They mostly undercharge for their financial planning solutions. So either they come in with, hey, I'm going to do this plan for you for free, which is a really nice token, but then they're having to upsell something, a commission product, whatever, to recoup their time or cost, or they're not, charging enough at the beginning to really compensate for their time. And Justine, you're saying I sell my process and value, but it really is selling me. They could work with many different companies that do what I do, but they like me and choose to work with my company. Makes it difficult not to be sold to my laptop. Yeah, I get it. We were talking about that. But yeah, I think if you sell the process though, you're a part of that process. It is selling you, but you've got to be able to scale it. So if that's the issue, that's number one, right? So, but number two, most advisors I deal with that struggle with charging the right amount because they struggle with imposter syndrome. Now, people think they know what imposter syndrome is, but imposter syndrome is really being on the stage or being in front of the client and being that advisor, but feeling like, I'm not really that advisor. Like I can't really give him that. So you're getting conflicting psychological, subconscious and conscious messages at the same time, which creates stress. And people see it. Your clients will feel it. Like, hey, they're not that confident. And your limiting blocks and fears and beliefs will show up. So my question is, if you're struggling with imposter syndrome, one of the ways to look at this is thinking about the time and the investment, whether that's energy, money, again, time or resources, whatever, that you've put into building your book of business or your firm, your business that you're running right now. And asking yourself in comparison, what is this value? Your value that you've earned. It took me a lot of time to focus in on, I have a Ph.D. It's hanging on the wall. It's not just a piece of paper. Like I spent a lot of time. There's opportunity cost here. In order to charge what I charge, I had to be clear with my beliefs and understand that it's okay to charge this high of a fee because I'm worth it. Right? You struggle with this? Charlie, do you have any insights on this part?
It took us a while to get to the price point that we're at. I mean, like when the business started, I think I was selling 3 months of service for like $299 or something like that, right? And you can make a living that way, right? But we had to grow a client base. Today, our clients are spending anywhere from $800 to $1,600 a month, right? Depending on what services we're implementing on their behalf. It's fair so long as it's in line with the return that they get for that investment.
Right.
I will butcher this thing, but I'm coming up with an adage I've heard in the past, right? It's, the plumber comes and gives you the bill for $300 and that part was 25 cents. Well, yeah, the part was 25 cents and, $299, 75 for me knowing where to put the part. Right.
Right.
Right. So yeah, the knowledge base, the experience, it's all part of the package.
Exactly. And so this is the psychological aspect. I mean, you can have great marketing. You could even have a great niche, but if you psychologically are suffering with imposter syndrome or limiting blocks and beliefs, that will keep you from being able to scale your business. Like end of story. Like that's where it ends here. And you might do a pretty good job of moving some things forward. You might be able to strategize with your teams and they may be able to push some things forward, but you likely will be the bottleneck. So if you struggle with imposter syndrome, I'd love to know what your struggles might be here. The third step is your system should focus on transformation. Now, this is a research study done by Joseph Pine II called the progression of economic value. I'm not an economist, but you can see there's really three axes here. There's the competitive position, there is pricing, and there's needs of customers. And essentially, as this graph goes upward, right, you can see that it moves from a commodity to a good, to a service, to experiences and transformations. Well, financial services, we're dead center. Like we're still called that. Like that's still the industry. When I go on anything and select industry, even LinkedIn, it says financial services, right? We're kind of middle of the row here. And we really need to be up at transformation. A good experience is a client feels great about how you've helped them. And that's kind of in the last 10 years of where this evolution is. But today, clients want and need transformation. Has anybody read Raving Fans? Raise your hand or put in the chat. Yes, we've read Raving Fans. Raving Fans just nails this. It's really about client experience, but how they've changed through the process. If your clients working with you do not have transformation, then they will likely leave you. So we talk about building the business and building the marketing, but for every client that leaves, like an ideal client that leaves, not a C client or something, you've got to spend a great deal of money and marketing efforts to replace that client. So having a transformational experience with them is huge. So what percentage, I'm curious for you guys, what percentage of your clients would say that they've experienced transformation with you or your process? I'd love to know that as well. Keep, interact with us here, guys, on the chat. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And this is, I believe, the key to where we go next. Okay. And if you're thinking about this, this isn't true, Travis, transformation gets thrown around. Yeah. The word transformation gets thrown around a bunch right now. It's out there. Oh, I was transformed, but I will tell you, I've got a picture and I should have shown this to you guys, a picture of a client's office that's just a total disaster. And then the other picture is his office completely transformed. Like that's transformation. I can see that and I can show that. Can you do that with your clients? And if so, what is your percentage? If you're at 80%, you're nailing it. If you're at 20, 30%, you've got some improvement. Okay. But I'm curious also, like what might be some issues that you're facing with how do we create that transformation? Because we can do some deeper work here. Point number four, don't create it until you sell it. Like Charlie, you're the marketing person here. You understand this works. Like I'm just repeating things that I've learned through the system here, but you've got to market your system first to your niche. Get the feedback, find out if it's useful, find out if this is something that they really enjoy before you start scaling anything. Otherwise, you're just throwing, what do they say, good money after bad. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, our experience is, we've got the core 4 business development model, right? And it starts with niche and building a network through ads, through LinkedIn and other ways, nurturing through content marketing, and then CRM's at the center of that. Yeah. And CRM helps to measure how this large network of several thousand people is interacting with your marketing message, and then, puts calls to action out at the right time to get them on your calendar, right? So now it didn't start that way. And I'll tell you, it started very simply building social media posts back in 2013, when that was like, wow, you're doing something for social media, that stuff's not going to stick around, right? And that evolved into email marketing, and that evolved, and it continued to, so where we are today is a stage in the evolution, and where that evolution is going to take us, I've got some idea, but time will tell. We got here because we followed opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. And also recognize what our clients needed to go from good to better to best and so forth. Right. And so our system has evolved kind of very organically. It's not. I didn't hang the shingle back in 2013 and go core four business development.
Right.
And that's been the evolution of what we've done.
Yeah, I love it because it is an evolution, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you had spent all of your time building it out perfectly to core four, you wouldn't even be in business.
That's right.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So advisors, same thing. Like you have an amazing system, you're really building out perfection. Great. Build it as you go if your niche wants it. If your niche desires it, they continue to build it, continue to evolve so that you can bring that to them. But what I see a lot of advisors struggle with on the marketing side is they're scaling their business is they spend all their time building it out perfectly before they try it, right? Before they sell it. And that, quite honestly, it seems like the right thing to do, especially if you're a perfectionist, if you really are detail oriented. But Travis, there's no way I could do this. Trust me. In March of 2020, I said I was going to write a book. I didn't even have the title or I had nothing. I actually had a manuscript and threw it out. So I realized it was the wrong manuscript. Started completely over. But then I started getting feedback and creating the system for advisors, and boom, it's what was needed. Yeah. So I really believe this is super important. Now, this next part may or may not apply. You may already be doing this really well, but if you're authentic, this is the key word of our age, right? The digital era, being authentic. If you're authentic and you're able to attract 8 to 10 clients using this system, right? Then this is how you do it. You gather all your current contacts, your social media, emails, and you begin on your own to contact them. Now, what I love about what Charlie does is he actually helps advisors to streamline and automate these processes once you are able to, really define this niche and things, which I'm actually, excited because I'm going to be working with Charlie on these things ourselves. So I'll let you know how this works, but I know that this is absolutely the next step. But don't automate it necessarily at first. Like you really need to throw this out here. You really need to be authentic and see if it works before you start automating, right? But then you contacted them personally with your system. And even if it isn't finished, once you do that, then you can hold consultations, discovery calls, phone calls, whatever you want to do. And if your system fits what they need to solve their problem, then you sell that to them. For example, if I was an advisor, I brought in 10 new clients and I charged a fee for just a financial plan, charged $5,000 for the plan and for that service, then great. There's $50,000 of revenue. And you have 8 to 10 clients that can vouch for you. What's great about that is if you go back to this step, and that's been a transformational process, then those 8 to 10 case studies are going to vouch for you, and you can then use them in your testimonials and in your marketing. Because I know advisors can do that a little bit now, depending on compliance. Yeah. So, Charlie, I put a plug in there for social advisors and what you guys do, because I know it's incredibly valuable. Anything you would echo on that?
Well, it's, I would say you have to, because we all have limited time, right? We have to know who that authenticity goes to, if you will, right? So our system's designed to let you talk to a lot of people at the same time without having to invest a lot of time in it, and then watch the cream rise, right? So that when you're putting that very personal time in, it is, it's with the right people. That they're resonating with your brand already. Right. So it's like an automated qualifier, if you will, if I can simplify it. Travis, I will also say, as we develop our systems, we have a core of, let's say, 8 to 10 clients that if I say, hey, we're thinking of doing this one thing, would you jump on board and let me test it with you? I always test stuff on my brand first. But we've got a number of clients now over the years that say, yeah, put me in it, right? Because they know if they get in it early and it works, then they're going to get grandfathered in at a discount when we roll it out on a retail pricing level.
Yeah,
that's a great way to do it too. Like, we don't evolve without the testing. Our evolution is all based on users who are working with us, as kind of a pilot or a test group to make sure that we're refining and thinking about everything as we take that next step.
Yeah. Well, and a really good point, and really the whole title, like how to scale your business without losing your balance. You're not going to be doing, the personal outreach yourself for very long. You want to then delegate that And now I have a whole sales team, and that's what they do. I no longer am the one who's doing a lot of the reaching out, and a lot of these processes are automated. I believe really in, if you can automate it and still keep that personal authenticity, do it. I'm not against automation. And then secondly, if you can outsource this, and it can't be automated, but you need to outsource it to a human, then try to outsource to someone who can either do it part-time or specializes like on an Upwork or Fiverr or 99 Designs or whatever. Do something a little bit part-time-ish. And then as that grows, as that becomes something you need more specialization in, then hire a full-time human. So for example, I have marketing, my podcast, I have all of these different aspects of the business. And just a couple months ago, I hired an operations person so that he can oversee all of that. So as the business scales, as it grows, I automate, I outsource, and then I employ. Automate, outsource, employ. And so as I'm talking about these, these steps, like, Travis, I'm going to lose my balance and all this. No, you're not, because as you go through it, you're going to be able to delegate these processes out. So a really key point here, Charlie, I think we need to make.
Yeah. I like that.
So number 6, where is this going? All right. Number 6, write a book to scale. What? Travis, are you a publisher? No, I'm not a publisher. But I'll tell you, I've coached advisors on how to write their own book and use it to scale. And I'm going to focus a lot of my time here because this is a big part of it. But you've got to have steps 1 through 5 built up, where step 6 doesn't make sense. So I'll tell you right now, is after I show you step 6, if you're like, wow, I really want to do this, I really want to jump to step 6, that's actually the first thing I say not to do. You've got to have 1 through 5 figured out, or else this won't make any sense. And, a lot of advisors, they want to write a book, or they want someone to write a book for them because they want to be the authority. But who are you the authority to? Again, if you don't have a niche and you don't have a transformational process, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot. A book will make you no more successful. In fact, it will suck a whole lot of time out of your life. So why would you say to do this, Travis? Well, I can tell you this. What the book has done after I made this announcement, in March 24th, the guy without the facial hair back then, I was 40 years old. And this is a time, again, you guys know where I was coming from, like worst quarter ever. When I made the announcement for the book, that gave me such exposure. I had thousands of views on social media, but from them, I had people that were inbound reaching out to me. Hey, I'd like to be interviewed for your book. I'd like to help out. How can I be a part of this process? Boom, boom, boom. And the ball just started rolling. But again, if I didn't already know what my process was, I didn't already have my testimonials, I didn't already have a transformational process, this would not have been a great experience, but it was a phenomenal experience. So what I did is I have to declare this book to the world. You have to say, hey, I'm going to write this book. I don't know what I'm doing, but here it goes. And that's kind of how it started off. But as I started interviewing literally hundreds of advisors, and now I don't do those interviews anymore. Now my sales team does those. I was able to create a launch team so that on July 14th, 2020, we actually hit number 1 in our category, work health, entrepreneurism, in 3 different countries. So it was phenomenal. It was an international success. But now I can also say I wrote the book on achieving balance for advisors, right? There are others who do somewhat similar coaching and for advisors out there, and it's fine. I think it's wonderful. But this is what separates me. This is how I can niche out, is I can say, I've got this written. Well, some might ask, Travis, how did you not do that with taking, 90-hour weeks or working nights and weekends? I didn't. I took Fridays off, and I didn't write the book until I had $100,000 of sales. I'm letting you guys in on this. I set a goal, and I told my editor, I'm not writing a single word until business hits 100,000 in 2020. And that hit around the 3rd, 4th quarter. And I said, okay, I guess I have to start writing the book now. But here's what I did to write the book. I didn't sit down and write every word. I was able to use transcription and editing help. I built a scaling team, an editor team that helped me. And yeah, I had to pay them, but you can do it right. I've got those resources and I can help you if you're interested. But essentially, because of the book, it really allowed me to reach this demographic. And people every single day want my book. I'm sending it out every single day. There's purchases, there's people I send these to literally daily because of the message.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's software out there to help with this too, Travis. We build a lot of lead magnets, right, for digital advertising. And when I build them, I start by dictation, right? And then I use a software called designer.io that a lot of you have heard of. And I got turned on recently, actually. So it'll take your dictation and then turn that into written text, right? And so you're talking to text. It just makes the writing process so much easier. You got to refine it, of course.
You've got to, of course.
But it makes getting the raw product on paper so much quicker and so much easier.
Yeah, when you editing versus raw writing, totally different process. But essentially what we did is we transcribed most of this out, and then my editor made sense of it. Then I went back and put stories. This is when I now put in those 10 transformational client stories in every chapter. And so I've got them in there, and then I'm able to use that as part of the book. The book interviews got me poems, quotes, thoughts, lots of ideas that otherwise, never would have been possible. So, if you're an advisor listening to this and you're thinking, there's no way I can write a book. I get it. Like, again, but that's a limiting block. It's a limiting belief. Travis, you're a PhD. You must know how to write. No, actually, I hired an editor to write my PhD. Like I'm not a very great writer. I can speak well. So I took my talent of speaking and got it out, got the ideas out. The secret is if you can build the system and the process, you can transcribe that, and that can be a book. What about compliance? Oh, there's ways around it. There's ways through it. And I've helped advisors to do this, but here's what comes next. What most people do is they want to publish a book. The process in a traditional publishing world takes 2 or 3 years. Trust me, I've been there for years trying to figure it out. And nowadays, because of Kindle Direct Publishing, you can go directly to your market and Amazon. That's exactly what we did. We went straight to people through Amazon, and it can be a difficult process. But if you have the right help and you scale it and your business is doing well enough, you can pay for those services. It's just that easy. And I've got great people around me that help me do this. I did not do this cover. I had my cover designer do it. I gave him some ideas and we finally finessed it out. But what we did is every time that we launched part of this book, it became something that I can celebrate, announce, and bring authentic social media. Even today, if you guys been on LinkedIn today, you will see that I just put an announcement out there that on 2/28, I've got a great big announcement that's coming. Okay. That's already brought like 700 views or something to that post. People know, and they followed me and they've seen what I've been doing the last couple of years, and they love the story, and they will follow your story too. You just have to be willing to do it. So here's the next step. The next step is you do an e-launch, and everyone that was on your pre-launch team that helped you on that day to become number one on Amazon, you send them a free PDF. Say, here you go. Thank you for helping us and supporting us on this process. Here's your free book. And then you do another launch where you launch the actual paperback, but you give it away for free. Then you can do a paperback launch where you charge for it. You do an audiobook. I did the audiobook. I recorded it all on YouTube. I don't know if you remember that, Charlie. I think we knew each other then, but I was doing that on YouTube every day, and it was tiring. It's tough. Yeah. But I wanted people to hear it in my voice. I didn't want to hire that part out. And you can, again, if time is an issue, you can scale that out. Now I do a podcast, and it's all about balanced advisors, right? It's a balanced advisor podcast, but it's built from the book. And I've had Charlie on. I've had Keena on. Actually, Keena has been a guest. I've had some of my clients on just to talk about what is balance, right? But that comes from the book. Some people do it the other way around, and they can still be successful in starting and launching the podcast and maybe even launching the book from the podcast. And that's fine. But I don't think you need to do it that way. And I actually found that it actually flows better the other way around, because your book might totally change during the process. And now you've got a podcast that doesn't match up. And that's actually happened to me. I had the Mate Time podcast that I had to drop And I ran with this Achieving Balance book, and it had a different flavor to it. So I redid it and I started over.
Travis,
Anyway,
I'll jump
yeah.
in quick, and I will tell
Yeah.
you, I think one of the greatest benefits of your book is the network that's built around it. If we take what you and I do, similar things, serving the industry, but take an advisor's position in the industry, most advisors suffer, their pipeline suffer, their growth suffers when they're not able to get in front of people. Right. If they get in front of qualified individuals that fit that niche, that's the translation of building a healthy pipeline and building a healthy practice. I love your approach with the authentic interview for the book. Opens up conversations with so many people that fit the niche audience that you serve. Also, they're not all candidates, they're not all prospects, but it's opening up new conversations for you every single day through that interview process.
Right.
So that
exactly.
that alone, the book creates so much opportunity in that regard.
Yep. And the advisors that I work with, when they're able to do this and they're super authentic. I have an advisor today who just made his announcement about the book. It's already garnered like 4,000 views over the last couple of weeks, and the things that he's been doing to build it up to it, that it's starting to coalesce around an actual message, right? So if people struggle, like, well, what do you do? Well, I'm an advisor who helps retirees, yeah, welcome to the club. But if you can differentiate yourself even further with a book to your niche, you're it for them. They now dub you, you are the knight of this for them. And so I'm the balance guy for financial advisors. That's it. People know me. And that's how that works. Thanks for being on here, Kenny and Keena. But here's, you can do the hardback. I've even seen people do a video book. Again, most traditional, you're going to go to a publisher. Here's my manuscript finished, done. They'll edit it. They'll do some things back and forth if they approve it. And then 2 years later, they say, hey, guess what? Your book's ready. Let's now distribute it. You're still doing all the marketing. You're still doing all of the work, but they're going to put their publishing stamp on it. And there's a little bit of kudos there. And there's some avenues you can get it out to. Instead, what I've done is I've taken each step of the process through, and marketed every single launch. I've got 9 launches, and I may do one, I may add one more here. So this is the beauty of it. And it builds the network and it brings eyeballs organically. No single dollar ad spend here at all. And still tripled my business 2 years in a row. So here's number 7, and love to know what your questions are, guys, on this, because I understand writing a book might not be in your wheelhouse. It might be something else. Maybe it's building a course. But it's something that in step 6 you can do. Once you have that, though, I do feel like the book is the best way for our industry to move forward. They want to know who the actual thought leader is with engineers who are struggling with benefits, right? If there's a book for that, they will read it. They will consume it. Now, once you have the authority, you have the niche, you're the thought leader. Now you can automate your marketing message even more. This is when you turn on social media ads. This is when you create those landing pages and evergreen webinars, email funnel, follow-ups, in addition, right? You might have some of those going, but this is when you really focus on them. Now that you have a larger list, you can do an official course launch. So I've told my audience today that if they would come check out this, our webinar today, that I would leak out a little bit of what we're doing. So on the 28th, I am officially going to launch the course that this book is really built around. It's my official course launch. And I've had 99 financial advisors go through the course. So whoever does this, whoever is number 100, I'm going to give it to them for free. I normally sell this thing for like $2,000. So that's the announcement I'm bringing on the 28th. So because you're here, because you're involved in this webinar, I'm leaking that out to you. So mum's the word, but if you follow me on the 28th, you'll know where that's at. And I'll give you some access to that so that you can get it first. And then you can hear it from me first. Okay. Awesome. So I'm really excited about that. And then, as you build it, then you can grow your sales team or junior advisors, right? You were talking about the Edward Jones out there. Man, having a junior advisor or a pair planner or both, or building teams around this is huge. So what's to hold you back from saying, okay, this team, you're the engineer team. You just work with engineers. You guys, you work with my IT CEOs. There's no reason why you can't continually scale financial planning practices out as big or small as you'd like to be. Right, Charlie?
Absolutely the truth. Yeah. And we watch so many examples of, people that we've worked with over the years, right? Ron at Carson Wealth, right? Jeff and his team over at Stratus. And I mean, just to watch, it's been fun to watch these businesses that I knew when they were 5 or 6 people that are now, in Carson Wealth's case, I don't know how many hundreds, but anyway,
yeah,
it's been fun to watch those practices grow. Now, what I would add there, Travis, is as you roll out that marketing, most important software you have is CRM.
Right. 100%.
I'm not talking about Redtail and WealthBox. Yeah. Those are great for your client management stuff. But CRM, a marketing capable CRM. I know that we're both very familiar with Keep and Infusionsoft. We are huge fans of SharpSpring. I mean, you can do SharpSpring at a third the price of HubSpot, but every bit as good as far as feature set. Make sure you've got a good CRM, because that's how you keep all this stuff organized, right? You build your landing pages there, you score your leads there, you automate communication and automate tasks for your sales teams. And so CRM is a big part of when you get into the advertising piece. Second piece of comment, as you grow that team, we're talking about niche. Travis, and you brought something cool up, right? You work with my engineers, you work with my IT CEOs. So here's where you can get very niche specific, right, in multiple areas, right? So when you build out that team, there's certain objectives. I'm working with, as a coach, I'm coaching an advisor that is with one of the big firms, wirehouse firm, right? So I'll leave names out of this stuff. He wants to go after a sought after small focus designation that would certainly give him a niche. Now the guy's got 25 years experience, but based on his marketplace, he's got to do like 1.8 million in revenue to get a full-time CA even.
Right.
So he's a single guy with a part-time CA, because he's close, but he's not quite there yet.
Not quite there. Yep.
So he's got to grow his team so he can get to that 1.8, get that full-time CA. Then he's got a junior advisor, and he's attracting advisors that are specific for the niche he wants to go after.
Love this. Love this. And that's how you scale it.
Brings more credibility to that space.
100%. 100%. Because those people in those niches, they want to know that you get them.
Yes.
And you can't say, oh yeah, I niche with doctors and dentists just because they make money. No, you've got to understand them. That's a whole other, discussion. But once you get there, then you bring on senior advisors. You can step away from advising if you want. Again, if you want to, you can scale it however big or small you'd like it. You can partner with other COIs. That's my big movement this year, is to become partners with a lot of my referral partners like Charlie and Keena and others out there who are helping advisors. You can speak, you can write. If you're great at writing, you can do videos, which I'm coming out with a bunch of funny videos this year that quite honestly, I'm going to poke a lot of fun at financial advisors. Why? Because we're easy targets. Like, you think there's good lawyer jokes, there's better financial advisor jokes. And we're going to play with this a little bit. TV, radio, you really need to become the rainmaker. Now, if you want to sit back and you want to be the advisor, then you've got to just reconcile that with, I don't really want to scale. I want to do some marketing. But if you want to scale and you want to grow a business, you've got to put yourself out of that advisor role eventually. I'm not saying right away, but you will, because you want to scale the business. And with that, you can reach more and more clients. So I know some people, they just want to get to 250 clients as an advisor, and that's what they want to do. They want to be solo forever. That's not who I'm talking to today. And that's why, you wouldn't be here if that was your situation. Number 10 is then you can create a tribe. People come to your own events. You can become, that celebrity. So this is as far up as you want to scale or not. Like, you can make it as big or little of an impact. But what I don't want you to do is, remember, here's the common mistakes. Create the course and jump into step 6, writing the book. Huge waste of time and funds. How big is that list? You reevaluate this. Number 2 mistake is not valuing the program correctly. make sure that you value what you do because nobody else will. I had a client that once we helped clear up this head trash, he charged 3 times as much as what he was charging for his previous work. And the client did not even bat an eye. He's like, I cannot believe it. I'm like, it wasn't just you raising your prices. It was him believing in himself that was the worth. Most will still undersell the solution because of their financial blocks. We're financial advisors, but a lot of us still have financial head trash. What's something that you might have? Reevaluate that. And number 4, not managing your time correctly, not scaling because you don't have a time management system. And this is a big reason why I'm here and helping this industry as financial advisors. So my question for you guys, and thank you for the time together. I know we're close to the end here, right at time. What if we could help you? What if we could help you avoid those mistakes and follow these? Actually, should be 7 rules. This is why I need editors. But what if we could avoid these mistakes and really put to use the system or whatever level that you're at? Okay. Here's my offer for you guys today. Because my time is very valuable. And normally I have my sales assistant do this, but because I'm here one-on-one, and this is the scaling aspect of what I do, I actually work one-on-one with advisors for this very specific method, this make time for scaling method. So I'm happy to offer a discovery call, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes of time with you one-on-one, if you're interested. And normally we would sell this for like $500. I have to value my time. But because you're on this webinar and because you're friends with Charlie and I'm gonna give this to you guys for free if you make sure you sign up on this today. What we'll do is we'll actually go through all these steps. We'll find out where you're deficient, where we need to focus on first, and we'll really figure out what is your best next step. Should you chat with Charlie? Should you talk with me? Should you figure out some CRM stuff? Like, where do we go from here? Do you focus on writing your book? That's really what we would do in this time together. So if you're interested, you've enjoyed this, we'd love to chat with you. And I'll do this one-on-one with those who are in attendance today, just because you're here. You guys showed up and you're willing to take some action.
Yeah, that's awesome. Travis, this is great, right? And a big fan of developing a system, a big fan of naming that system, branding that system. We talked to Justine earlier, who travels with her laptop like I do, right? But she's a big part of why clients come to her firm. And that's important. And the same with social advisors, right? I mean, most of our clients land here because they know me and have trust in me, and we've known each other whatever duration of time. There's a trust relationship there. My main goal is when I bring a client on, right, that knows me, is coming in because of that. Now we've got to instill trust in the system and the team that runs that system, because I don't even run it. Right. I'm the face of it. And we do webinars and I take care of a lot of the business stuff, but I've got people that run that system. So that's it's not a struggle, but that's our big mission when we bring somebody new on, is, okay, your trust was in me. Now here's the team and here's the system. Right. So that's pretty fun, but
100%. Yeah. I think, again, some of the pitfalls here are really just, they're psychological. Like, you look at all these steps and go, oh, that sounds great. Maybe I'll do that in a few years or so. But if you really want to move the needle, there's no time better than the present to get started on either of these aspects. Doesn't mean you have to take me up on a discovery call. Doesn't mean you need to call, Charlie and start automating things, but maybe that's what you do need to do. I don't know. I won't know unless I'm able to work with you there one-on-one. Or you can start putting some of these action steps into play, like start doing the research, start looking at your niche. And I love doing this for advisors. It's so fun because the light bulbs, they go on once we start digging deep into this discovery call and find out, wow, this is where you're stuck. This is where you need to move forward. Because I remember being there, and it was only a couple of years ago where I hit a wall, and this has been the game changer for me. So thank you, Charlie. Thanks for letting me use this platform to get this information out and help other advisors. Because really what it came down to for me, and some people ask, Travis, why are you not an advisor anymore? Why didn't you just come back with that knowledge and be an advisor? Well, I had a coach that asked me this and said, Travis, I feel like you're not supposed to be an advisor anymore. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I've had a very similar thought. That would take me out of her coaching program. And she's like, this is kind of me shooting myself in the foot, but you're supposed to be someone who's going to be influencing other advisors. And that's really what my mission is if I can help influence other advisors, you guys are the ones influencing your clients. Therefore, I have a multiplicity effect and I love it. So thank you for letting me do what I do, Charlie. Thank you, advisors, for following the mission.
Travis, and thank you for being here. You got a valuable message and a great service that you provide. And we all need balance. I know I can use more of it. So, so with your permission, in that vein, after we're done, I got about 15 minutes of wrap up. Then can I go golf? Is that cool?
You do it, man.
All right.
You do it. I love it. I love it. You should. Thanks,
all right.
Charlie.
I'll try to. Travis, thank you so much, man. I'm sure that I'll catch up in the next day or two. For everybody who's here, this is being recorded, so we do a little bit of post-production on this, get loaded up to YouTube, and then we'll get everybody the recording as well. So thank you for really sincerely taking part of your day to spend with me and Travis, and hopefully this was useful for you. It certainly was for me. I've been through this presentation with Travis before. I learn new things every time, so excited about it. Thank you, Travis.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right. Cheers, brother.